All right, so we're diving in something pretty cool today. We're talking about spicing up everyday conversations. You've given us this list of really interesting words.
And it seems like you're looking to move past the basic vocabulary. Find those real gems.
Yeah, the gems that really capture a feeling.
Exactly. It's not about being pretentious, but it's about really wielding language in a more intentional way.
Like you want to use these words and not sound like you're giving a lecture.
Yeah.
Exactly. You want them to flow naturally. So the piece we're going to dive into is called 11 Most Useful Advanced Words for Daily Conversation You Probably Never Hear Yet.
Okay.
Which is a mouthful, but I think this is going to be fun.
It's a great title.
So first word, serendipity. I just love this word.
Yeah.
It's not just luck, it's luck that brings something good.
Right. It's that good luck.
Yeah. So I remember...
You had a serendipitous moment?
I did, actually. I was completely lost in a new city and, hopelessly lost.
Oh. And I bet that wrong turn led to something fantastic. I stumbled upon this hidden courtyard, and there was this tiny cafe with like the aroma of fresh pastries, live music, the most charming atmosphere. I never would have found it if I hadn't gotten lost.
Well, that's the thing about serendipity, isn't it? It's about being open to the unexpected, recognizing opportunity when it presents itself, even if it's like a detour, like a conversation. Sometimes the most interesting parts of conversations are when you go off script a little bit.
So it's not just about like stumbling onto something good, it's recognizing the potential.
Yeah, recognizing the potential, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let's move on from serendipity to quirk, which I think we all have.
Oh, yeah.
And we love them about people.
Little things that make us unique. Those endearing oddities. Not weird, just endearing,
The source actually mentioned humming while working.
Oh, yeah, like a little background music. I love it.
Yeah, I do that, and I never thought of it as a quirk.
We don't see our own quirks, right?
They're just part of us.
Yeah.
But other people notice them and they think, oh, that's so-and-so,
Yeah. It's like a friend that always has to have their coffee a certain way, or a colleague that organizes their desk meticulously.
They could even be a conversation starter.
Right.
Like imagine someone noticing you humming and they go, oh, you hum while you work. Me too.
Yeah.
What's your go-to tune?
Yeah. There's a connection.
Totally.
Okay. Now, on the flip side of that, we've got oblivious. We've all been there where we're just completely unaware of something obvious.
And it can be hilarious.
Right.
As long as it's not too embarrassing.
Okay, so I'm going to share one. I once walked right past a friend on the street because I was engrossed in a podcast.
Uh-oh.
And they had to chase me down the block,
no.
waving and shouting my name. Talk about feeling oblivious.
I mean, it's a funny anecdote, but it reminds us that we're not always as aware of our surroundings as we think, right?
But maybe that's a good thing sometimes.
How so?
Like maybe obliviousness lets us focus on what's important to us, like tune out distractions.
That's interesting. So it's almost like a superpower, right? The ability to really hone in and block out everything else.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, let's move from obliviousness to something much more positive, altruistic. And I think this word really speaks to like a genuine concern for others.
Yeah, it's about going beyond just simple acts of kindness, but really making an effort to benefit others, even if it costs you something.
And I think it's important to distinguish true altruism from actions that appear selfless.
Yes.
But maybe have ulterior motives.
Yeah.
Like someone might donate to a charity for the tax benefits rather than out of pure generosity.
It's about the intention.
Yeah.
It's not just the action, but the reason behind it.
And it reminds me of the debate about whether true altruism even exists.
Oh, is there such a thing as pure selflessness?
Right.
That's a big question.
But regardless, I think striving for altruism makes us more empathetic and compassionate.
I agree with that. Totally.
Okay. Let's shift gears and talk about nonchalant.
Ooh. Projecting that cool confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about appearing calm and relaxed, even in situations that might make others anxious. It's like saying, I've got this, without actually having to say it.
It's like gliding through a crowded room unfazed by the chaos around you.
Yeah, I like that.
Effortlessly cool.
But it can't be arrogance.
Right.
It can't be indifference. It's this balance between being composed but still engaged.
So it's not being aloof.
That's a great distinction, yeah.
Because aloofness creates distance.
It does. But nonchalance, when it's done well, can actually be quite charming. It's magnetic,
So how do you walk that line? How do you project nonchalance without coming across as dismissive or uncaring?
I think it's about being present, engaged, responsive, but with that air of composure. Like a dancer who makes those difficult steps look effortless.
Oh, okay. So you're still putting in the effort.
Yes, you are.
But you make it look easy.
It looks effortless, exactly.
Well, okay. I'm starting to get this.
Yeah.
But, we can't always be nonchalant. Sometimes life throws us curveballs and we end up feeling completely flustered.
Yeah, flustered. Like that feeling of being caught off guard, a little bit embarrassed, definitely not in control.
Right. You know those moments when you trip and stumble in public?
Oh, yeah.
Or you totally blank on somebody's name and you've met them a million times.
I once spilled a full cup of coffee on a potential client during a job interview.
Oh, no.
Talk about feeling flustered.
So flustered really captures that blend of confusion and nervousness and slight embarrassment.
Yeah. It's like when you're trying to tell a story and you completely forget the punchline.
Yeah, you're laughing but cringing inside at the same time.
And I'm guessing it's the opposite of nonchalance.
I would say so, yeah. Nonchalance is like that outward projection, and flustered is the internal experience.
So maybe being able to laugh at ourselves when we're feeling flustered is a sign of confidence.
That's a good point. It's certainly a sign of self-awareness and resilience, I think.
Okay, let's move on to a word that, doesn't necessarily spark joy, like serendipity. It's mundane.
Oh, the daily grind, the routine, the things that can feel soul-crushing if we let them.
Right. Recognizing those aspects of our lives that feel repetitive or uninspired or lacking in excitement.
And this connects back to your desire to elevate your language.
Yeah.
Because using richer vocabulary can be a way to break free from the mundane.
I love that.
So imagine describing your daily commute as a dreary procession of metal boxes instead of just a boring drive.
It paints such a picture, doesn't it?
Okay, so recognizing the mundane isn't about dwelling in negativity.
Yeah.
It's about becoming aware of the areas in our lives where we might be on autopilot. And then we can use language to shift our perspective, find the beauty or humor even in the everyday.
I love that. It's like reclaiming your power to shape your experience through the words you choose.
Okay. I love this. It's like we're turning these words into tools for self-discovery and personal growth.
I like that, yeah.
Okay, let's go to eloquent.
Oh, eloquent.
It makes me think of great orators captivating audiences with their words.
Yeah, but eloquence isn't just for the stage or the pulpit, right?
Right.
It's a quality we can cultivate in our everyday conversations.
So it's not just about using big words or fancy language.
No, it's about clarity, precision, choosing the words that resonate with your audience.
So someone like Maya Angelou, her words were simple, but so powerful.
So powerful, yes.
So eloquence is about authenticity and connection.
I think so.
Not just sounding impressive.
Exactly.
And it takes practice.
It does.
But the rewards, I think, are huge.
Absolutely.
All right, so let's acknowledge we don't always have all the answers. And sometimes we have these mixed feelings about a situation.
Oh, yeah. And that's where ambivalent comes in.
Yes, ambivalent.
Because it acknowledges that we can have those conflicting thoughts and feelings.
Right. It's like when you're offered a job that has amazing perks, but requires you to move away from your family and friends.
Right. On the one hand, you're thrilled.
Yeah.
But
excited about the opportunity.
On the other, it's like, oh, but.
Yeah. So it's not about being indecisive.
No.
It's about recognizing the nuance.
Absolutely.
And rather than forcing ourselves to choose a side.
Right.
Embracing ambivalence allows us to hold space for both.
Absolutely. And even use it as a conversation starter instead of just saying, I don't know. Right.
Which shuts things down. You can say, well, I'm ambivalent about this.
Yeah.
And it invites further discussion.
I'm sensing a theme here. These words are not just about expanding our vocabulary. They're about becoming more comfortable with the complexities of human experience.
Yeah, that's it. It's about embracing the full spectrum and finding the language to express those.
Okay, let's inject a little humor with facetious.
Oh, facetious. Love it.
This is about not taking ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, it's playful. It's using humor or even sarcasm to lighten things up a little.
So like when someone asks, how's your day going? And you respond, oh, fantastic. I'm just loving this traffic jam with a big smile on your face.
Yeah.
Right.
But facetiousness can be tricky.
It can be, yeah.
You have to read the room.
You do, because if you're not careful, it can be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
So it's all about being aware of your audience and the context. A well-timed, witty remark can create that bond and laughter.
Yeah.
But the wrong time, disaster.
Right. And I'm guessing it takes a certain amount of self-awareness.
It does, yeah. You have to be able to laugh at yourself.
Okay. I'm ready to embrace my inner facetiousness.
Good. I like it.
But first, let's go to a place of perfection. Pristine.
Ah, pristine. It's such a beautiful word.
It evokes a sense of untouched beauty, something in its ideal state.
It is, yeah. Like a secluded beach.
White sand, crystal clear water.
No footprints.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Or a perfectly preserved antique.
Yes. Gleaming like new.
Yeah. So it's more than just physical objects.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Okay, how so?
You can have a pristine reputation.
Oh.
And a pristine performance.
I see. So it's flawless. Impeccable.
Yeah.
Free from flaws or imperfections.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a powerful word.
It is, yeah. And it's, it connects back to our whole idea of elevating everyday language.
Yeah.
Because by using these words more intentionally, we add that depth and nuance.
Okay, so pristine is not just a perfectly clean room. It's striving for excellence and clarity in all aspects of our lives.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Wow, we've explored 6 of the words on your list. We'll be back with more in part 2 of this deep dive.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Welcome back to our deep dive.
I am still kind of buzzing from our exploration of those first 6 words.
Yeah.
But we're just getting started. We've got 5 more.
We do. And remember, this isn't about just adding words. It's about expanding your capacity for expression.
Yeah.
Connecting with people on a deeper level. So where should we go next?
Let's revisit flustered, because I think we've all been there. That feeling of being caught off guard, a little embarrassed.
Totally. Your mind racing.
Yeah. We talked about it being the opposite of nonchalant, but is there a way to reclaim our composure when we're feeling flustered?
That's a great question.
Mm-hmm.
And it reminds me of the power of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
If you recognize you're feeling that way, you can start to manage it. It's like saying to yourself, okay, I'm a little flustered right now, but I'm going to take a deep breath.
So it's like acknowledging the feeling, but not letting it control you.
Yeah, and sometimes humor can be a good way to kind of diffuse the tension.
Yeah.
If you can laugh at yourself and the situation.
Right. It takes the sting out of it.
It does, yeah.
Okay, so laugh at my flustered moments. Got it.
Add it to the list.
Okay, let's shift to a word that I think often gets a bad rap. Mundane.
Okay.
It's easy to see it as like the enemy of excitement, right?
Right. The ordinary, the routine, the things that can, feel a little soul-crushing.
Yeah. But we talked earlier about how recognizing the mundane can be a catalyst for change.
Yeah, because it's about becoming aware of those areas in our lives that have just become automatic. We're going through the motions.
Like brushing our teeth or commuting to work or checking email, things we do every day without really thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And those things, they can start to feel draining if we don't find a way to inject some meaning into them.
Okay, so how do we do that?
I think it starts with awareness, right? Once you recognize it, you can choose to approach it differently.
Okay.
Maybe you listen to a podcast while you're doing chores.
Or you try a new route on your commute. Or maybe you use that mundane task as an opportunity for mindfulness.
Oh, I love that.
So instead of rushing through your morning routine, you focus on the sensations.
Yeah.
Like brushing your teeth or the taste of your coffee.
Being present in those little moments.
Yeah. So it's about finding those moments of beauty, even in the midst of the ordinary.
Yes.
And language can play a role in this, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, how so?
Well, by using more descriptive language, we can shift our perspective. So instead of describing your job as boring, which has that negative connotation,
Right.
maybe you say predictable.
Okay.
Which then opens up that possibility of, well, how can I be more creative? How can I challenge myself?
So we're reframing the experience through the words we choose.
And that can impact our emotions
Yeah.
and our actions. It's like looking at a familiar painting, but with fresh eyes.
Okay. I like that. So recognizing the mundane is not about dwelling in negativity. It's about becoming aware of the potential for transformation.
I love that.
Yes.
All right. Let's go back to eloquent. We talked about how it's not about using big words.
Yeah.
It's about conveying your message clearly.
With impact.
With impact.
Yeah.
We talked about how Maya Angelou embodied eloquence.
Yes.
But how do we cultivate that in our own lives? Is it something we're born with, or can it be developed?
I think it can be developed. I think it's like learning a musical instrument. You don't become a virtuoso overnight.
Right.
It takes practice. So any practical tips for developing eloquence?
It starts with being mindful of the words you choose, right?
Okay.
Pay attention to the subtle differences between words that might seem synonymous.
Okay, so like instead of just saying happy, maybe I say delighted, joyful, exuberant, yeah.
Right.
Depending on the specific shade of happy I want to express.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment. Try using new words, even if you're not sure you're using them exactly right. The more you play with language, the more comfortable you become.
Like trying on different outfits.
I love that.
You might not love everything.
Yes.
But you develop a sense of what works for you.
Exactly. And just like with fashion, with eloquence, you find your own style.
Okay.
There's no right way to be eloquent.
I'm feeling inspired to expand my linguistic wardrobe.
Good, I like that.
But let's be real. There are times when even the most eloquent person is left speechless.
Totally.
We're faced with a situation so complex that we don't even know what we think.
Yeah, those gray areas in life where we don't have those clear-cut answers. And that's where ambivalent is really helpful.
It allows us to hold space for both sides.
Exactly. Instead of forcing yourself to choose a side, you could acknowledge the validity of both perspectives.
It's like being a judge in a courtroom. You have to listen to both sides before reaching a verdict.
That's a great analogy. And just like a judge, you have to have that detachment and objectivity.
So how do we cultivate that? How do we avoid getting swept away by our own biases or emotions?
I think it starts with curiosity.
Okay.
Instead of jumping to a conclusion, you approach it with a desire to understand. So ask questions. Really listen.
Be willing to sit with the discomfort of not knowing.
Exactly.
That reminds me of the quote from Rumi, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there."
That's beautiful. And it really does speak to that ability to be open.
Yeah. Okay, so we've explored flustered, mundane, eloquent, ambivalent, and now we have one more word. And it's facetious.
Facetious.
I feel like a shift in tone.
Yes, we're bringing in the humor.
Yeah, a little playfulness.
Yeah, a little playfulness.
Okay, so facetious is all about using humor, sometimes sarcasm, to lighten the mood. But it's a delicate dance, right?
It is.
Because you could offend.
It's all about subtlety and timing. Like a well-placed wink.
Okay.
You know, it can create that shared understanding.
But if you wink at the wrong person or at the wrong time, it can be a disaster.
Exactly. Exactly. So you have to read the room and know your audience.
So probably not something you would use with a stranger.
Maybe not, unless you're really good at reading social cues.
Right.
And you have that confidence. But even then, it's a risk.
So how do we develop that sense of when to use facetious? Is it something that just comes with experience?
I think so. The more you interact with people, the more you'll learn about social dynamics, those subtle cues.
And I'm guessing self-awareness plays a role here too.
Absolutely. Being able to laugh at yourself, not take things too seriously.
So it's like you're saying, hey, I trust you enough to let you see my lighter side.
Exactly. Exactly. And when it's done well, it can create that joy and intimacy.
So it's not just about making a witty remark. It's about creating that shared moment of laughter and connection.
I love that. Yes.
Wow. We have explored so much in this segment alone. We've gone from the depths of flustered moments to the transformative power of the mundane, from the art of eloquence to the nuances of ambivalence and the delicate dance of facetiousness. And in the final part of this deep dive, we're going to bring it all together and discuss how to integrate these words into your everyday life, making them not just words you know, but words you use.
Sounds good.
All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We've been exploring these 11 words, but now comes the exciting part. How do we actually make them a part of our conversations?
Yeah, it's like we've got this great toolkit.
Right.
But we need to know how to use it.
So how do we go beyond simply knowing the words to actually using them naturally, effortlessly?
I think it's about weaving them into the fabric of your communication. Yeah. And the beauty is it doesn't have to be a big, daunting task.
Okay, so no flashcards.
No flashcards, no.
Not endless drills.
Start small. Focus on integration.
Okay. I like that. So where do we begin?
Okay, well, instead of trying to master all 11 at once, pick just 3 that really speak to you.
That you can envision yourself using.
Exactly. Let those be your linguistic companions for the week.
So like if someone is drawn to the idea of serendipity, embracing chance encounters, they might choose serendipity, nonchalant, and pristine.
Oh, nice. I like those choices.
Yeah.
That works.
So once you've chosen your 3 words, what's next?
Make them visible. Write them down. Put them on sticky notes.
Okay. Around your house.
Yeah, around the house. On your mirror.
Yeah.
On the fridge.
Yeah.
Reminders on your phone.
So you're creating this subtle awareness.
Exactly. And every time you see that word, challenge yourself to use it.
Okay. In a sentence.
Yeah. Say it out loud or just think it in your head.
Right. Just to get that familiarity.
Yeah. Just make it feel more natural.
And don't be afraid to experiment.
Oh, no.
Try using the words in different situations.
With different people.
See how they fit.
Absolutely. It's like trying on new shoes. You got to walk around in them a little bit.
Okay. I'm starting to feel more confident about using these words.
I love that.
What about writing? Can that be a helpful tool?
Oh, absolutely. It gives you that low pressure environment. You can take your time, look up definitions, and play around.
Like journaling.
Yeah, journaling is great. Or even emails, text messages.
Just finding those opportunities.
Yeah, to just stretch those linguistic muscles.
Yeah. And what about observation? Paying attention to how others use language.
Oh, that's huge.
I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I'm always picking up new words and phrases.
Yeah, pay attention. What words are they using? How are they using them? The tone of voice, the pacing.
And you can even borrow.
Yeah. See what you like.
Okay, so we've talked about picking 3 words, making them visible, practice, observation. Any final advice as we wrap up this deep dive?
Yeah, I would say, remember, the goal is not to sound pretentious.
Right.
It's about enriching your communication, being authentic.
It's about unlocking the power of language to enhance your everyday experience.
I love that.
So I'd like to leave everyone with this challenge. Choose just one word we've explored and try to use it in a conversation.
Notice how it feels.
How it changes the flow of the conversation.
Have fun with it.
Yeah. Remember, language is a gift. It's a tool for connection, creativity, self-expression. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep exploring and keep expressing yourself.
Thanks for listening.
All right, so we're diving into these awesome English speaking tips. And guess what? We're going to use storytelling to help you guys get there. I've been really digging through all these tips, and some of them are so cool. Did you know that simply narrating your day, even just making breakfast or walking the dog, can make a huge difference? There's this story about Jane, who was super shy about speaking, but she started doing that, just narrating her day, and her fluency just took off.
You know, it's funny. We often underestimate how powerful just those everyday activities can be. For language learning, it's all about creating a consistent habit of thinking and speaking in English.
Yeah. You know, I used to struggle with this whole think in English thing. I'd be translating everything in my head before I could even say a word. It was exhausting. And my conversations just felt so clunky. What are some ways to actually shift your thinking into English mode?
Well, that's a common challenge. One really effective technique is to start small. So instead of trying to translate entire sentences, just focus on single words or short phrases. For example, when you see a cat, just think cat in English, not your native language. And then as you get more comfortable, gradually increase the complexity. Another helpful tip is to use visual aids. So surround yourself with English labels, posters, even sticky notes. This constant visual reminder will kind of just nudge your brain to start thinking in English.
So it's like training your brain to make those automatic connections, right? Instead of going through that extra translation step.
Exactly. And speaking of training, the source material really emphasizes the importance of daily practice, even if it's just for 10 or 15 minutes. The key is consistency. Think of it like working out a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
And this story about Raj totally proves your point. He was really focused on improving his pronunciation. So he started imitating the dialogue from his favorite movies, paying attention to the actor's intonation and everything. And guess what? It totally worked. He started to sound so much more natural and fluent.
You know what Raj was doing was actually quite clever. He was intuitively tapping into the power of mimicry, which is a fundamental aspect of language acquisition. When we imitate native speakers, we're not just copying sounds, we're absorbing the subtle nuances of the language, the rhythm, the stress patterns, even the emotional tone.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. It's like when we learn our first language as babies, we're constantly mimicking what we hear around us. So why not apply that same principle to learning English?
Exactly. And this leads us to another crucial point that's emphasized in the source material: learning phrases, not just isolated words.
Okay, this is something I've heard before, but honestly, I never fully understood why it was so important. Can you explain a bit more about the benefits of learning phrases instead of just memorizing individual words?
Sure. So when we learn phrases, we're not just acquiring vocabulary, we're also grasping how words work together. In natural flowing speech, for example, instead of just learning the words give and hand, we learn the phrase, could you give me a hand? This teaches us the grammatical structure, the idiomatic usage, and the natural rhythm of the language.
Oh, so those common phrases become like building blocks for conversations. It's much more efficient than trying to piece together individual words in the moment.
Exactly. Imagine trying to build a house brick by brick versus using prefabricated walls. Phrases are those prefabricated walls of language. They help you communicate more fluently and naturally. The source even gives some great examples, like "what's up?" or "how's it going?"
You know, I never thought of it that way. That's actually a really helpful analogy. So instead of getting bogged down with individual words, we should focus on those everyday phrases and how they're used in context. That's a fantastic takeaway for our listeners.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the beauty of it is you encounter these phrases all the time. In movies. Yeah. Music. And everyday conversations. Start paying attention to them. Write them down. And practice using them in your own interactions.
Yeah. I love that. All right, so we've talked about the importance of thinking in English, practicing consistently, and learning phrases. But let's get even more practical. This source has a whole section on using stories to improve fluency. And I have to admit, I was a little skeptical at first, but then they started talking about visualizing the story and really bringing it to life with details. And it clicked for me. I actually tried it with the sample story they gave about a weekend hike. And it was amazing. I felt like I was reliving the experience as I was telling the story in English. Do you find that using your senses helps you remember things better when you're learning a language?
Absolutely. Our brains are wired to remember things that are like emotionally charged and sensory rich. So when you actively engage your senses while you're telling a story in English, like the sights, sounds, smells, you're creating those stronger neural connections, making it much easier to recall the vocabulary and the grammar. It's like turning your brain into a high-definition movie studio.
I love that analogy. It makes so much sense. And speaking of making things stick, this source also recommends recording yourself speaking English. Oh, I used to cringe when I would listen back to my early recordings. But it really helped me pinpoint areas where I needed to improve. It was like having a personal language coach in my pocket.
Yeah, such a valuable tool for self-assessment. You can hear your pronunciation, your intonation, the overall flow of your speech. You might notice things you weren't even aware of, like maybe using filler words too often or speaking too quickly.
Oh, totally. I used to say and like all the time. But hearing it back on a recording made me so much more conscious of it. And over time, I was able to break those habits.
Exactly. It's all about becoming aware of your own speech patterns and then making those conscious efforts to improve.
Yeah, for sure. You know, another thing that really stood out to me in these tips was the power of asking questions. It seems so simple, but it's such an effective way to keep conversations flowing and build your confidence.
Asking questions not only demonstrates like your engagement, but it also encourages the other person to share their thoughts and experiences. It kind of takes the pressure off of you to constantly come up with things to say, and it creates a more dynamic and engaging interaction.
Right, and they suggest using those open-ended questions like, what do you think about? Or how is your seat? Which is a great tip. Those kinds of questions invite more detailed responses and give you more opportunities to listen and learn.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to ask clarifying questions. If you don't understand something, native speakers are usually happy to explain or rephrase things. It shows that you're actively listening and you're eager to learn.
Absolutely. It's all about showing genuine interest and engaging with the conversation. Okay, one last tip from this section that I found really intriguing: expanding your vocabulary with context.
Yeah, learning new words in isolation can be a bit like trying to memorize a phone book. It's dry and it's difficult to retain. But when you encounter words in context, within sentences and stories, they come alive. They suddenly have meaning and purpose.
Yeah, they give the example of the word serene used in the sentence. The lake was serene, surrounded by mountains. And it's so true. You can instantly picture the scene and understand the feeling the word is trying to convey.
Exactly. The sentence provides clues to the meaning of the word serene. You can infer that it describes a peaceful, calm, and tranquil atmosphere. And that visual imagery helps cement the word in your memory.
Okay, so I've always kind of found the idea of role-playing a bit intimidating, but this source makes a really compelling case for it. They say it's like a dress rehearsal for real-life conversations, which makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's like a safe space to experiment, make mistakes, and build your confidence. Think about those situations where you might feel a little nervous using English, like ordering food, asking for directions, making a phone call. Role-play those scenarios can really help you feel more prepared and less anxious when you actually encounter them in real life.
Right. They even provide this example scenario of ordering at a cafe. Want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay, so imagine I'm the customer and you're the barista. Okay, I'm feeling brave. I'm going to go for it. Hi there. I'd love to try one of your lattes. What would you recommend?
Okay, welcome to our cafe. We have a variety of delicious lattes. Do you prefer something sweet, or are you looking for more of a classic flavor?
I'm feeling adventurous today. What's your most unique latte?
Let's see. Our lavender honey latte is a customer favorite. It's a beautiful balance of floral and sweet notes.
Wow, that sounds amazing. I'll have that, please.
Excellent choice. One lavender honey latte coming right up.
See?
Yeah.
That wasn't so bad. I actually felt pretty comfortable using those phrases and responding in real time.
Yeah. And the more you practice, the more natural it'll become. You can even involve like friends or family members in your role plays to make it even more fun and interactive.
That's a great idea. It kind of turns language practice into a game almost. Okay, so the source also talks about the benefits of joining English-speaking communities. And they share this really cool story about Ahmed, who joined an English-speaking book club. Not only did his speaking improve, but he also made new friends and expanded his cultural horizons.
Yeah. Ahmed's story really highlights like the social and emotional benefits of language learning. You know, it's not just about grammar and vocabulary. It's about connecting with people, sharing experiences, and broadening your perspectives.
It's about finding your tribe, those people who share your passion for the language and can support you on your learning journey.
Exactly. And the beauty of it is there are so many different types of communities out there, like book clubs, hiking groups, online forums, language exchange partners.
So think about your interests, your hobbies, your goals. What kind of community would you feel most comfortable in, most engaged in?
Yeah, the key is to find a space where you can use English authentically and connect with people who share your passions.
Well, this brings us to the end of our deep dive into these incredible English speaking tips. I have to say, I've learned so much from going through all these sources with you.
It's been a pleasure exploring these techniques together. Remember, the most important thing is to enjoy the process, embrace the challenges, celebrate those victories, and never stop exploring the beautiful world of language.
Yes. And for all of you listening out there, remember that fluency comes one step at a time. Keep practicing, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep believing in yourself. Until next time, happy speaking.
Hey everyone, and welcome. You know how sometimes you wish you could just switch between formal and informal English? Like it's nothing?
Like having a secret code, yeah.
Exactly. Well, that's kind of what we're diving into today. We've got this awesome cheat sheet all about formal versus informal English, and we're going to break it down.
It's like a superpower, choosing the right words for every situation.
Totally. I mean, imagine going to a job interview and accidentally slipping into super casual slang.
Or using like Shakespearean English when you're just texting your friend.
Oh, been there.
Right.
Not a good look.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. This cheat sheet starts with the core definitions of formal and informal English. And it's really cool how it explains why each style matters.
Yeah, like formal English is all about clarity, respect, sounding professional.
Right. While informal English is warmer, more about connecting with people, showing your personality.
It's fascinating how each style creates a different effect. Like formal language, it's all about being clear and direct, especially when you need to sound authoritative or like an expert. You see it in legal documents, research papers, that sort of thing.
Makes sense.
But in formal language, that's how we build relationships. Express yourself naturally. Think about how you talk to your family or close friends.
So true. It's like having a whole linguistic toolbox. You choose the right tool for the job. Now, this cheat sheet has this awesome table of word pairs that really show the difference between formal and informal English.
Oh, yeah. Those are great examples.
There are a few that just jump out at me, like purchase versus buy. I mean, they basically mean the same thing, but purchase always feels so much more serious.
Yeah, purchase definitely has that heavier, more transactional feel to it. You wouldn't say, I'm going to purchase a candy bar at the store, right?
Definitely not.
But you would say, the company is considering the purchase of a new building. It's like purchase is reserved for bigger, more official things.
Interesting. So it's about using the right word for the situation. And speaking of, another word pair I wanted to ask about is obtain versus get. They both mean to acquire something, but obtain just sounds like you had to work so much harder.
You're right on. Obtain implies effort, and often there's a more formal process involved. Like you wouldn't say, I got my degree after years of study. It doesn't have the same impact.
Right.
You'd say, I obtained my degree. It emphasizes the accomplishment, the effort you put in.
Totally changes the feeling. Okay, I'm starting to see how these small word choices can really change how your message comes across. Now let's jump into some real-life scenarios this cheat sheet covers, like job interviews, texting, and social media.
Ooh, yeah, those are where things can get tricky.
It's like navigating a linguistic minefield. Let's start with job interviews. They're already nerve-wracking enough. What's the biggest language mistake you've seen people make in those situations?
You know, it's not always about using the wrong word. It's more about the overall tone and being aware of the context. I once had this candidate who kept using slang and informal expressions throughout the whole interview.
Oh, no.
Yeah, it wasn't that they were trying to be disrespectful or anything, but it created this disconnect. It made it harder to assess their professionalism, how they would fit into the company culture.
I get it. It's like showing up to a fancy dinner party in, like, sweatpants. It's not that sweatpants are bad, they're just not right for the occasion.
Exactly.
So from your experience, what are some key tips for hitting that sweet spot? Being professional, but still sounding natural in a job interview.
Well, clarity and conciseness are always good things to keep in mind. Like instead of saying, I endeavored to ameliorate the situation,
right,
you could simply say, I worked to improve the situation. It gets the point across without being too complicated.
So it's about being impressive without being confusing.
Exactly. And don't forget about your nonverbal communication too. Body language, tone of voice, those all play a part.
True. It's all about sending the right signals. All right, let's move on to something you mentioned earlier, texting. I know you're super busy. Do you ever find yourself overthinking your texts, especially when it comes to slang or abbreviations?
Oh, all the time. Texting is naturally informal, but there's still a spectrum there.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll type something out and then think, wait, is this too casual? Or will they even understand this abbreviation?
Me too. Like, should I use lol or actually type out, that's funny? It's a real dilemma.
Right. So how do you figure out where the line is, especially when you're texting someone new?
Right.
I think it comes down to, reading the room, even if it's a virtual room. Pay attention to how the other person is texting. Are they using lots of slang, emojis?
Yeah.
Then you can probably loosen up a bit too, but if they're more reserved, it's better to be a little more careful, at least at first.
So it's a bit of a dance, like you said before, mirroring and adapting. That's really helpful. Okay, but what about social media? That feels like a whole different beast. You're potentially talking to tons of people at once.
Yeah.
How do you navigate the formal-informal balance there?
Social media is interesting because it often blends different levels of formality. You might be commenting on a friend's silly post 1 minute and then having a serious discussion in a professional group the next.
Right.
It's like having multiple conversations happening at the same time.
I never thought about it that way. So it's even more important to think about your audience and the purpose of your message.
For sure. Think about who you're trying to reach and what you want to achieve with your post or comment. Are you sharing a personal story, offering professional insights, or just messing around? That'll help you decide how formal to be.
Makes sense. Okay, we've talked about all these specific situations, but I'm curious. Have you ever come across a situation where the line between formal and informal was just totally blurred? Like you had no idea which style to use?
Oh, absolutely. It happens more often than you'd think. One that comes to mind is online forums, those communities where people from all walks of life come together. You might have someone using super technical jargon in one comment, and then someone else responds with a meme.
Oh, wow, a real mix.
It's a linguistic melting pot.
Sounds kind of overwhelming. So how do you even approach a situation like that?
I think the key is to be adaptable and focus on being clear. Even if you don't understand every single word or reference, try to get the main idea and respond in a way that's clear, respectful, and relevant to the topic. And don't be afraid to ask for clarification if you need it.
Great advice. So it's all about being flexible and open to learning. Okay, I'm feeling way more confident about handling these tricky situations now. But before we jump into the next part of your cheat sheet, let's take a quick breather and recap what we've covered so far. We started by defining formal and informal English, those two distinct styles. Then we dug into those tricky word pairs, like purchase versus buy, and saw how those subtle choices can really change your message. And we even tackled those real-life communication minefields, like job interviews, texting, and social media. We learned how to find that balance between being professional and being ourselves.
And the big takeaway is that language is constantly changing, right? So we got to be willing to adapt and learn as we go.
Love that perspective. It's not about always getting it right. It's about being aware, adaptable, and enjoying the ride. And speaking of enjoying the ride, let's buckle up and get ready to explore the fascinating world of how language evolves in the next part of our deep dive. Things are about to get even more interesting.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we got sidetracked with all those real-life scenarios, we were talking about how language is always evolving. I mean, think about how much English has changed even in the last few years. All those new slang terms, all those online expressions.
It's crazy, right? I feel like I need a dictionary just to keep up with my younger cousin sometimes. It's like they're speaking a whole new language. But seriously, how does all this change affect the whole formal versus informal thing? Is formal English becoming like a dinosaur?
That's a really interesting question, and it's actually something that linguists are studying right now. Formal English definitely still has its place. Think about academia, law, government. Those are places where it's still really important.
Right, for official stuff.
Exactly. But it's not immune to change. Even something like email. Think how we used email 10 or 15 years ago. It was always so formal.
Well, you're super serious.
But these days, it's much more common to use relaxed language, especially with colleagues or clients you know well.
I definitely do that. I'm way more comfortable using contractions and even emojis in work emails now. Just depends who I'm emailing, of course.
Right. It's about finding that balance, being professional, but also building relationships.
Totally. And that's where things get really interesting, right? The lines are blurring in a lot of contexts.
Yeah. Like social media is a perfect example, especially LinkedIn. You've got this mix of professional networking and more casual interaction. You might have a CEO posting this super insightful article, and then the next minute they're sharing a funny story about their weekend.
It's true. It's like a whole new world of communication. So are you saying we need to become like linguistic chameleons, constantly adapting to each platform and audience?
Well, it can feel like that sometimes, right? But I think the key is to be aware of what's going on, what the different expectations are. We don't have to abandon all the rules of formal English, but we can also be flexible and creative with informal language.
That reminds me of the practice exercises you included in the cheat sheet.
Oh,
They're not just about memorizing rules. They're about trying different styles, finding your own voice.
exactly. Like there's one where you rewrite a formal email in a more casual way, and then the other way around. It really gets you thinking.
It's like a workout for your language skills.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing is that language is a tool, and just like any tool, we need to know how to use it for different purposes.
I love that analogy, and that's one of the most important things to remember. Language is a tool. Just like a carpenter wouldn't use a hammer for every job, we need different linguistic tools for different situations.
Okay, I'm starting to feel like I can handle anything. But this whole idea of language evolving, it makes me wonder, what does this mean for the future of communication? Are we all going to end up just talking in emojis and internet slang?
That's a really fascinating question, and honestly, I don't think anyone knows for sure. There are some linguists who think we're moving towards a more informal, global style of communication, where things like grammar and formality become less important. Others think there will always be a need for clear, precise language, especially in professional and academic settings.
Right, it makes sense.
And then there are those who believe that technology, like AI, will play a huge role in shaping how we communicate in the future. Think about voice assistants like Siri and Alexa. They could potentially change the way we speak and write.
Wow, I hadn't even thought about that. So many possibilities. I can't even imagine what English will be like 50 or 100 years from now.
Me neither. But it's exciting to think we're all part of this evolution, right? Contributing our own words, phrases, ways of speaking.
Totally. Maybe someday my younger cousins will be teaching me the latest slang. Who knows? But for now, I feel way more equipped to handle the way things are now. We've covered so much formal and informal English, word choices, those tricky real-life situations.
Yeah, and we've learned that language is always changing, so it's a journey, really. Always something new to learn.
And speaking of journeys, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back to share some final thoughts and inspiration before wrapping up this deep dive. All right, we're back. I hope you had a chance to really think about how you can use all these formal and informal English skills in your own life. It's kind of like we've given you this treasure map, right? But now it's up to you to go out and explore.
I like that, a treasure map. And just like any explorer, you're going to run into some unexpected things, maybe a few challenges, but also some amazing discoveries.
For sure. Okay, before we wrap up our deep dive into formal versus informal English, let's do a quick recap. We started by defining those two styles, formal being all about authority and respect, and informal being more about connecting with people, letting your personality shine through. We even looked at those tricky word pairs like purchase versus buy and obtain versus get.
Yeah, the subtle differences can really make a big impact.
And we talked about all those everyday situations that can be tricky. Job interviews, texting, social media. We figured out how to strike that balance between being professional and being authentic.
It's like having a secret code for communication.
Totally. But honestly, the most fascinating part for me was realizing that language is never really finished. It's always changing, so we have to be ready to adapt.
It's true. The way we communicate today is totally different from even a few decades ago, and who knows what it'll be like in the future.
That's what makes it so exciting. But it also makes you wonder, right, what about the future of language? I mean, we talked about social media and technology, but what about AI? Do you think things like Siri and Alexa will change how we use formal and informal English?
That's a great question. Will we all start speaking in these perfectly grammatical sentences? Or will that casual conversational style from texting become even more common? It's really hard to say.
I know, right? It's kind of mind-blowing. It makes you realize how powerful language is.
Absolutely. It's something we often take for granted, but it shapes how we think, how we interact, how we see the world.
So true. Well, as we wrap up this episode, I want to leave you with this thought. Whether you're using formal or informal English, the most important thing is to communicate clearly and respectfully, and to let your own unique voice come through.
That's a great way to put it. Don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, make mistakes. That's how we all learn and grow.
Exactly. And remember, language is constantly evolving, so enjoy the journey. We'll catch you next time on The Deep Dive. All right, so you're maybe trying to pick up some conversational English.
Okay.
Maybe for a trip or just for fun.
Right.
Well, we're going deep today on just a list of 66 common words.
Okay.
But I think even if you know these words already, trust me, there's more to uncover here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we take these simple words for granted.
Right.
But they really do hold these fascinating insights into how language works.
Yeah.
How cultures interact.
Wow.
Even how our minds are wired, you know?
It's like finding hidden treasure in our own backyard.
Exactly.
Our first section here is greetings and introductions.
Okay.
And you think simple stuff, right? Hello, goodbye.
Yeah, sure.
But I'm already sensing there's a but coming.
Well, yeah, I mean, consider please and thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, they're polite. But think about the power dynamic there.
Okay.
You know, please subtly positions the speaker as needing something.
Right.
Almost in a lower position.
Huh.
Fascinating how these tiny words establish sort of this hierarchy.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
So is thank you then a way to kind of acknowledge that power dynamic?
Exactly.
Right.
It creates this dance of social obligation in a way.
Interesting.
And it varies across cultures too. Like in some, a simple thank you is enough.
Mm-hmm.
But in others, there are these elaborate rituals of gratitude.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, if you misread those cues, you can run into all sorts of awkwardness.
So even these basic greetings are like packed with this cultural baggage.
Absolutely.
We might not even realize we're carrying around.
Yeah.
Let's move on to common questions.
Okay.
This is like the 5 W's and an H, what, who, where, when, why, and how.
Right. The foundation
of curiosity, right?
Absolutely. But think about how those seemingly simple words unlock the most complex questions.
Yeah.
I mean, you can go from what's for dinner to what is the meaning of life.
Wow.
And mastering these questions isn't just about vocabulary.
Okay.
It's about equipping yourself to learn anything.
Oh, that's cool. You know, it's like having keys to the universe of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the next section, everyday actions, seems pretty straightforward at first glance.
Yeah.
You've got your eat, drink, go, come.
Yeah.
Kind of mundane actions, right?
True. But they're also the building blocks of how we describe our experiences and tell stories.
Oh, okay.
You know, I went to the store. I mean, simple, but without that verb went, the whole thing falls apart.
Right.
These actions become the verbs that drive our sentences. So it's making that communication dynamic.
And it's amazing how these simple verbs combine with other words.
Oh, yeah.
To make more nuanced actions.
Right.
So go becomes go ahead, go back, go out.
Exactly.
Just a handful of verbs and the possibilities are endless.
That's the beauty of language.
Right.
This incredible efficiency and flexibility.
Yeah.
So from just a few core verbs, we construct this infinite array of meanings.
Let's talk about time and directions and basic needs.
Oh.
Words like tomorrow, yesterday, home, money. These feel really deeply connected to just the human experience.
Oh, they're They reflect our primal need to orient ourselves in the world. You know, tomorrow is so fascinating.
Yeah.
Because it's not just about the next day. It embodies hope and possibility, even anxiety about the future.
It's true.
We grapple with time and place and survival.
Yeah.
And these words capture that.
It's like each of these words is a tiny window into the evolution of human consciousness.
It really is.
Speaking of evolution, the feelings and reactions list.
Okay.
Feels like a Pandora's box waiting to be opened.
It is. We have happy, sad, angry, tired. They seem basic.
Yeah.
But then you think about all the cultural layers.
Right.
What makes one person happy might be neutral to another.
That's true.
And how we express these emotions. I mean, that's a whole other world of cultural norms and unspoken rules.
So even learning the words isn't enough.
Right.
You need to understand the context
Absolutely.
in which they're used.
Yeah.
It's making me realize how much I take for granted in my own language.
That's the point of this whole deep dive,
Yeah.
to appreciate those hidden complexities, even in the simplest words.
Before we move on, I have to ask about yes, no. And maybe these seem deceptively simple.
Right.
But they hold so much power in a conversation.
Well, think about it.
Okay.
You know, yes implies agreement, a willingness to go along.
Yeah.
Perhaps even submission to another's will? Asserts boundaries, autonomy, even defiance in some contexts.
Right.
And maybe is that realm of ambiguity.
Okay.
Of keeping options open, sometimes even avoiding a decision.
Wow.
Yeah.
So each of these words is like a mini negotiation shaping the power dynamic of every interaction.
Precisely. And then sorry, and excuse me, add another layer.
Okay.
Sorry, seeks to repair a social breach.
Right.
Excuse me, requests permission, acknowledges a potential imposition. They're not just words. They're tools for navigating that social landscape.
We've gone from simple greetings to uncovering these hidden power dynamics.
That's true.
And the complexity of human emotions.
Yeah.
All from these supposedly basic English words.
And we've only just scratched the surface, because this is where things get really interesting. How do these words come to be?
Right.
What are their historical roots?
Yeah.
That's where etymology comes in.
Okay.
Yeah.
Etymology.
Yeah.
That's a word I don't use every day.
Right.
Sounds almost like a magic spell.
It does a little bit.
But you're saying it's the key to unlocking even more secrets about these words.
It really is. Think of it as like a time machine for language. By tracing the origins of words, we can understand how our ancestors saw the world and how their experiences shaped the language we use today.
Wow.
It's like you're holding a piece of history in your mouth every time you speak.
That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
So give me an example. What's like the hidden history behind one of these simple words that we've been discussing?
Okay, well, let's take the word home.
Okay.
A word that evokes feelings of comfort, belonging, safety. It has roots in this Proto-Indo-European word domus, meaning house or dwelling.
Okay.
And this word evolved over time, taking on different forms in various languages.
Right.
But that core concept of a place of shelter and belonging, that remained constant.
But even though our modern homes might look vastly different from the dwellings of our ancestors, the word itself connects us to that ancient desire for a safe haven.
Yeah, it's a powerful reminder that certain human needs and aspirations, they transcend time and culture.
And the same goes for words like eat.
Absolutely.
I mean, that comes from the Old English word etan, which is related to the Proto-Indo-European root ede, meaning to consume or to bite.
Yeah.
So whether we're enjoying a gourmet meal or just grabbing a quick bite, we're participating in an act.
Totally.
That goes back to our earliest ancestors.
Right. It's amazing how these simple words carry the weight of history and cultural evolution.
It makes you wonder, are there any modern words that might become these kind of foundational words
interesting.
for future generations?
Yeah.
Words that will carry the weight of our current experiences.
That's a fascinating question. It's hard to say for sure which words will stand the test of time.
Right.
But I imagine words related to technology and the digital world might become the new eaten home for future generations.
Yeah.
Think about words like online, download, or virtual. I mean, these are already deeply ingrained in our daily lives.
Yeah, they are.
And could become even more essential in the future.
I can already imagine a future etymologist tracing the roots of online back to like our current era.
Right.
It's a reminder that language is constantly evolving.
Absolutely.
Reflecting those changes in our world and the way we live.
Precisely. And while predicting the future of languages is impossible,
Right.
it's safe to say that these basic words we've been discussing, they have a good chance of sticking around because they represent such fundamental aspects of human experience, our need to connect, to communicate, to make sense of the world.
It's comforting to know that even as language evolves, some things remain constant.
Absolutely.
And speaking of constants, we've discussed how please and thank you can reflect those power dynamics.
Yeah.
How yes and no are tools for navigating social situations. And how even a word like tomorrow embodies our complex relationship with time.
Yeah.
But there's one category we haven't delved into as deeply. Feelings and reactions.
Yes. The language of emotions, perhaps the most nuanced and challenging aspect of human communication.
Yeah.
Even with a limited vocabulary, we can express a wide range of feelings. But as we touched on earlier, the true meaning often lies beneath the surface. Cultural context plays a huge role in how we express and interpret emotions.
You mentioned earlier that what makes one person happy might be neutral to another.
Right.
And I can only imagine how angry or sad might be expressed in vastly different ways depending on the culture.
Exactly. Take the word angry, for example.
Okay.
In some cultures, expressing anger openly is considered rude.
Right.
Or even taboo.
Wow.
While in others, it's seen as a healthy way to communicate frustration.
Okay.
And even within a single culture, there are different ways to express anger, from a raised voice to a subtle change in facial expression.
So learning the words for emotions is just the beginning.
Right.
Understanding the cultural nuances and unspoken rules around expressing those emotions is key to effective communication.
Absolutely.
It seems like a potential minefield for misinterpretations.
It can be, but it's also an opportunity for incredible growth and understanding.
Right.
By paying attention to how different cultures express emotions, we can become more sensitive communicators and build stronger relationships across cultural divides.
So how can we use these basic words for feelings and reactions to communicate more effectively, especially when dealing with complex emotions that go beyond simple happy or sad?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about how often we struggle to articulate our feelings even in our own language.
It's true. One approach is to combine these basic emotion words with more descriptive language to paint a richer picture of what we're feeling. Instead of just saying, I'm sad, we could say, I'm feeling down or I'm heartbroken.
Right.
It adds a layer of depth and helps others understand the intensity and nuance of our emotions.
So it's about building upon the foundation of those simple words to create more precise and expressive language.
Exactly.
But what about those times when words simply fail us? How do we communicate emotions that are difficult to put into language, especially across cultural boundaries?
That's where nonverbal communication comes into play. Our facial expressions, body language, and tone of voice often speak volumes.
Right.
A gentle touch, a warm hug, or even a shared silence can sometimes convey more than words ever could.
Wow.
Think about how a simple smile can transcend language barriers and create an instant connection.
So effective communication isn't just about finding the right words.
It's not.
It's about using all the tools at our disposal to express ourselves authentically and connect with others on a deeper level.
Precisely. And remember, communication is a two-way street.
Right.
It's not just about expressing our own feelings. It's also about actively listening to the emotions of others, even when those emotions are unspoken.
It's making me realize that effective communication, especially when it comes to emotions, is an art form in itself.
It truly is.
It requires empathy, patience, and a willingness to be vulnerable.
And like any art form, it takes practice and a willingness to make mistakes. But the rewards are immeasurable. When we can communicate our emotions effectively, we build stronger relationships. We create more understanding and foster a more compassionate and empathetic world.
On that note, let's take a moment to reflect on everything we've explored so far. From greetings to emotions, from power dynamics to cultural nuances. These simple words have revealed a world of complexity and insight.
It's amazing what we can discover when we look beneath the surface of the everyday.
And
it highlights the power of language to connect us, to help us understand ourselves and others, and to make sense of the world around us.
We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still so much to explore.
There is.
We've got some fascinating listener questions waiting for us. Let's dive into the practical applications of these powerful words in everyday life.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a renewed sense of awe for the power of simple words.
It's remarkable, isn't it, how much depth we've uncovered in the everyday. And it seems our listeners are feeling it too. We've got some great questions that take this exploration even further.
Let's dive right in. Our first question comes from Sarah.
Okay.
She asks, if these basic words are so powerful, are there any tips for using them more effectively in everyday conversations?
That's a great question, Sarah. And it reminds us that communication isn't just about the words themselves, but how we deliver them.
Okay.
So one tip is to be mindful of your tone of voice.
Okay.
Even a simple yes can convey enthusiasm, hesitation, or even sarcasm, depending on how you say it.
So it's like adding this layer of musicality to our speech.
Exactly.
What else can we do to make those basic words really sing?
Pay attention to nonverbal cues.
Okay.
Your facial expressions and body language can amplify or contradict your words.
Right.
Imagine saying, I'm happy while frowning.
Yeah.
The message gets muddled. We're communicating even when we're not speaking.
Yeah, that's true.
So that congruence between words and body language, that's key.
It's a good reminder to be aware of our overall communication style.
Yeah.
Speaking of sending mixed signals.
Okay.
Our next question is from John,
Okay.
who asks, how do you navigate saying no politely?
Okay.
Especially in situations where you don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
That's a universal challenge, John.
It is.
It's all about finding that balance between honesty and kindness.
Right.
One approach is to express appreciation before declining.
Okay.
You could say, thank you so much for thinking of me, but I'm not able to commit to that right now.
So acknowledging the request before stating your no?
Exactly.
Oh, that softens the blow a bit.
It does.
Any other strategies for those tricky no situations?
Sometimes a brief explanation helps.
Okay.
You might say, I'd love to, but I'm already overcommitted this week.
Right.
You don't have to over-explain, but a little context can go a long way.
It's also important to remember that no is a complete sentence, right? We have the right to set boundaries without feeling obligated to justify ourselves.
Your no is valid.
Yes.
And you don't owe anyone an explanation if you don't feel comfortable giving one.
Right.
Trust your intuition and prioritize your own well-being.
Our final question comes from Maria,
Okay.
who's feeling a bit overwhelmed by the prospect of learning new languages.
Yeah.
She asks, do you have any advice for getting started? All the grammar rules and vocabulary feel intimidating.
I understand completely, Maria. It's easy to feel lost when faced with a new language.
Right.
My advice is to start with the basics.
Okay.
Greetings, common phrases, and yes, those 66 powerful words we've been dissecting.
So building a solid foundation with the essentials before tackling the more complex stuff?
Exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What else can help those starting on their language journey?
Don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
Yeah.
The more you practice, the more confident you'll become.
Right.
And remember, the goal is communication, not perfection.
Exactly.
And find ways to use what you're learning in real-life situations.
Oh, yeah.
Chat with native speakers, watch movies, read books,
Right?
even if you only understand a few words at first.
Yeah.
Immersion is key.
Absolutely. The more you surround yourself with the language, the more natural it will become.
Okay.
And who knows, you might even discover hidden depths in your own native language along the way.
Well said. It's been an incredible journey exploring the power of simple words.
It really has.
From basic greetings to the nuances of emotional expression.
Yeah.
We've seen how these building blocks of language shape our communication, our relationships,
Right.
even our understanding of the world.
And we've only just begun to scratch the surface.
I know, it's exciting.
There's a lifetime of exploration to be had with even the simplest words.
So as you go about your day, pay attention to the words you use.
Yeah.
Both spoken and unspoken.
Right.
Embrace the nuances, explore the depths, and remember, even the smallest words have the power to create profound connections.
And shape our experience of the world.
Well, until next time, happy communicating.
Hey everyone, if you're here with us today, you're probably wanting to sound more fluent in English.
And you know what? You're in the right place.
Today, we're doing a deep dive on phrasal verbs.
Oh, yeah. Those tricky but oh so important parts of the language.
Absolutely, they can be confusing.
But they're what really make you sound more natural.
Exactly. And we're focusing on this awesome YouTube video script.
It's called, I use these 23 phrasal verbs every day. You can too.
From the channel Learn English with Confidence.
They've got some great tips in there.
Yeah, so our mission is to go through and pick out the most useful ones, the ones that will really help you sound more fluent.
And we'll talk about those little nuances, like, how they're used and the different ways their meanings can change.
Right, so let's get into it. What is it about phrasal verbs that makes them so powerful?
Well, the thing that gets me is how they can take a simple verb.
Yeah, like look.
Exactly. And then, bam, you add a preposition like after.
And suddenly it means to take care of someone.
It's not just looking anymore.
Yeah. In the video, they use the example of look after compared to just plain look.
It's such a good example, right? Because look is just seeing something.
But look after is all about responsibility and care.
And the script breaks these phrasal verbs down into different situations we find ourselves in every day.
Mornings, work, socializing, you name it.
So practical.
I love that. So starting with those morning routines.
We all have them.
The script mentions phrasal verbs like wake up, get up, freshen up, and even just put on.
Okay, those seem pretty basic, right?
Yeah, at first glance, but I feel like there's always more to discover with phrasal verbs.
Always.
What are some of the things we might miss about these seemingly simple phrasal verbs?
Even with ones that seem super simple, like wake up and get up,
Yeah.
there are these subtle distinctions that are so important.
Okay, so the script defines wake up as like the actual moment you become conscious.
Exactly.
But get up implies the action of getting out of bed.
Right. You could wake up at 7 a.m., but not actually get up until 7:30.
I see what you mean. The difference between being awake and taking action.
You got it.
Hitting that snooze button. Classic.
That's you being awake, but not up yet.
So true. All right, so moving on to phrasal verbs we use at work or for school.
Another big part of life.
The script lists, log in, catch up, work on, call off, and put off.
These are definitely the ones we see in emails and messages all the time.
Yeah, and some of them are definitely my personal favorites, put off being at the top of the list.
I think we all put off things more than we'd like to admit.
It's so tempting sometimes. The script actually says, don't put off your homework, finish it today.
Sage advice. But it is interesting how language, reflects these very human tendencies.
Procrastination is a universal struggle.
It really is.
But, another phrasal verb from this list that I find particularly interesting is work on.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's not just about being at work,
Nope, it's more than that.
It's about actively improving something.
Right, like a project or even yourself, right? You're working towards something.
Yeah, exactly. I'm working on a new project.
It implies effort and progress.
Exactly. And then catch up, another interesting one.
Oh, catch up is so versatile.
One phrasal verb, but it can have so many meanings.
Like you can catch up on emails.
Catch up with a friend.
It really depends on the situation.
But that makes it all the more useful for daily conversations.
Absolutely. It highlights how flexible phrasal verbs can be.
Okay, so we've done mornings, we've done work, but now let's get to the fun part, socializing.
Yes, my favorite part.
The script highlights some really common ones here, like hang out, catch up with, again, come over, and make up.
Such good ones. Those are the ones you hear all the time.
Definitely. And I think for English learners, it's important to understand those nuances, like when is it okay to use them and when is it maybe a little too casual.
So true. And I think with hang out,
yeah, that's a good one to start with.
It's super common, right? But it's interesting to think about how it became so common.
Like, where did it even come from?
It seems like it emerged, not that long ago, like mid-20th century.
Wow, so relatively recent in the grand scheme of things.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that it's super informal, so you probably wouldn't use it in a formal setting.
Yeah, good point. You wouldn't hang out with your boss.
Probably not, unless you're really good friends.
So how does that inform how we approach learning phrasal verbs?
Yeah.
Thinking about when and where they're appropriate to use.
Well, I think it's all about context,
Yeah, context is key.
And paying attention to the way native speakers use them.
Exactly, like in movies, TV shows, even music.
It's like language is constantly adapting, reflecting our culture.
Yeah, you could say language hangs out with the times.
That's a great way to put it.
So moving on to another social phrasal verb.
Okay.
Come over. Are there any potential misinterpretations with this one?
Well, come over is generally understood, but it is quite informal.
Right.
So if you're in a situation that calls for a little more formality.
Like meeting someone for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. It might be a good idea to add a touch more politeness, like, would it be all right if I came over?
I see your point.
Or maybe something like, would you like me to come over?
Right, it shows you're considerate.
Exactly, just softens it a little bit.
Okay, so from hanging out with friends to being polite and considerate, phrasal verbs cover it all.
They really do. They're essential.
All right, moving on to the not so fun but very important part of life, chores and errands.
Oh, yeah, the things we all gotta do.
The script highlights some key phrasal verbs here, like clean up, pick up, drop off, and run out of.
The everyday essentials.
We use these all the time without even realizing it, right?
Absolutely. It's like second nature.
And yet, even though we use them all the time, sometimes I still get tripped up, like pick up and drop off.
Oh, yeah. Those can be tricky.
I'm curious, is there like a foolproof way to remember which is which?
Well, think about the direction of the action. With pick up, you're taking something.
Ah, like picking up groceries.
Exactly. But with drop off, you're leaving something somewhere. Ah, so dropping off dry cleaning.
You got it.
Okay, so I'm picturing arrows.
Oh, I like that.
Like pickup is an arrow pointing towards you.
And drop off is pointing away.
Perfect.
Visualizing things can be super helpful when you're learning.
I'm a visual learner for sure. So we've gone from waking up to running errands, and it's amazing how many phrasal verbs we use without even realizing it.
Right. They're everywhere.
And we've only covered a handful from this list.
There's so much more to explore.
I'm ready for more. But let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and dive into even more of these fascinating phrasal verbs and how they can help you take your fluency to the next level.
Sound good?
Okay, so back to those phrasal verbs. Now the script's taking us into the evening.
Winding down after a long day.
With phrasal verbs like wind down, turn on, turn off, go over, stay up, and doze off.
Ah, the evening routine.
It's interesting how these phrasal verbs, reflect that shift in energy.
From busy to relaxed.
Exactly, like that feeling of slowing down.
And speaking of, staying up.
Oh, are we talking about staying up late?
That's definitely one of my weaknesses.
I can relate.
Especially when I get lost in a good book.
Or, scrolling on your phone.
Guilty as charged. The script actually mentions staying up late to watch movies.
Yeah, I've definitely done that.
Classic. It's that temptation to just keep going, even when you know you should be sleeping.
But I think wind down is such a good one to focus on these days.
It is.
Especially with, how busy everyone is.
It's like that conscious choice to relax.
Yeah, to shift gears from work mode to chill mode.
Exactly. Give your brain a break.
Speaking of things we should probably do more of.
Let's talk about go over.
A good one.
The script uses it in the context of studying. I go over my notes before an exam.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
But it feels like it has broader applications.
It totally does.
Go over can mean to carefully review anything.
Right, like a contract.
A plan.
Even a presentation.
It's like that mental double check.
Make sure you haven't missed anything.
I think about those times when I've rushed into something without really going over it first.
And things don't go as planned.
Exactly.
Careful review is really important.
It can save so much trouble later on.
For sure.
So go over. It's not just about studying.
Nope. It's about being thorough.
And now, for the opposite of staying up.
Oh, what's that?
Dozing off.
Haha, I've done that one too.
It's that unintentional falling asleep.
When you really shouldn't be.
Like in a meeting.
The script gives the example, I dozed off while reading.
Heavens to the best of us.
It's like your body just overrides your mind.
Yeah, and sometimes it can be a little embarrassing.
Especially if you're in public.
I've definitely dozed off in some pretty awkward situations. But what I really like about this YouTube video...
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
It's not just about listening and learning the definitions.
Right.
They actually give you chances to practice.
So important.
They have this interactive section.
Oh.
Where viewers get to fill in the blanks in sentences using the phrasal verbs.
Oh, I like that.
I need to blank my homework before class tomorrow.
Makes you think.
Or, we've blank of coffee, let's buy more.
That's clever.
Yeah, it's super engaging, and it helps you actually apply what you've learned.
Hands-on learning, it's the best.
And then they take it even a step further.
Oh, wow.
They challenge viewers to write a short story.
Oh, that's awesome.
Using at least 3 of the phrasal verbs.
That's so creative.
Yeah, it's about taking those individual pieces of language and building something with them.
So it's not just memorizing.
Exactly. It's about actually integrating them into your vocabulary.
And making them your own.
Okay, so we've gone through this whole list of 23 phrasal verbs for this YouTube video.
It's been a journey.
From waking up in the morning to dozing off in the evening, we've covered it all. What are some key takeaways about phrasal verbs in general that we can take with us?
That's a good question.
What stands out to you?
Well, I think one thing that really shines through is how versatile they are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, you can use them to describe actions.
Like pick up and drop off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But also states of being.
Like wind down.
Yeah, even emotions.
So they're not just about physical actions.
Nope, they go deeper.
And one verb can have so many different meanings depending on the particle that's added.
It's like they unlock a whole new level of expression.
But that can also be a little daunting, right?
It can, especially if you're new to learning English.
What advice would you give to someone who's maybe feeling a little overwhelmed by all these phrasal verbs?
Honestly, I'd say don't try to learn them all at once.
Yeah, small steps.
Pick a few that you find interesting.
Or that you think you'll actually use.
Exactly. And start incorporating those into your conversations.
Baby step.
And, don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's all part of the learning process.
It really is. Making mistakes is how we learn.
The more you use them, the more comfortable you'll become.
And, pay attention to how native speakers use them.
Yeah, listen closely.
In movies, TV shows, even just everyday conversations.
You can pick up a lot just by observing.
I think context is key.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the same phrasal verb can have a slightly different meaning depending on the situation.
That's the beauty of language. It's so nuanced.
All right, before we move on, let's do a quick recap of some of the most useful phrasal verbs we've talked about today.
Okay, good idea.
Put off, for all you procrastinators out there.
A classic.
Catch up for those busy days.
Essential for modern life.
Wind down for some self-care.
Take care of yourself.
And then there's work on.
Showing that effort.
And go over.
For that extra attention to detail.
And remember, if you want to see the full list of all 23 phrasal verbs from this video,
yeah, definitely check it out.
We'll include a link in the show notes so you can explore.
And before we go, I think it's worth coming back to that big question we posed earlier.
Yeah.
How do phrasal verbs, with all their unique combinations and evolving meanings, reflect the nature of the English language itself?
It's a big question.
It is.
But such an interesting one.
I mean, they really embody that dynamic and adaptable nature of English.
It's like they're little microcosms of the language itself.
Always changing.
Always evolving.
Just like English.
Okay, well, let's hold that thought for a moment and take a quick break, and then we'll come back and talk about how you can actually use all of this to improve your English fluency.
Sounds good.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. We've talked about all these awesome phrasal verbs.
So many good ones.
Learned about their definitions.
Their origins.
Those tricky little nuances.
The context.
But now it's time to talk about you.
You got it.
And how you can use all of this to actually become more fluent in English.
The most important part.
It is. It is. And I think sometimes people get so caught up in the technical side of learning a language.
The grammar rules.
Yeah, that they forget that the ultimate goal is communication.
To connect with other people.
Yeah, exactly. Fluency isn't about memorizing endless rules.
It's about expressing yourself.
And feeling confident doing it.
And phrasal verbs can help you do that.
They can. Think of them like the spices in a recipe.
Oh, I like that.
They add that extra flavor.
That theorizing.
That makes your speech sound more natural and authentic.
Not so bland.
Instead of saying, I cleaned my room.
Right.
You can say, I cleaned up my room.
Mm-hmm. Much better.
It's a subtle difference.
But it makes a big impact.
It does. It makes you sound more like a native speaker.
More comfortable.
But, let's be real for a second. Learning phrasal verbs can be a little overwhelming.
It can. There are so many.
And they can be tricky.
What advice would you give to someone who's, feeling a bit lost with phrasal verbs?
Honestly, be patient.
Yeah, patience is key.
Don't try to learn everything at once.
That's a recipe for disaster.
It is. Start with a few that you like.
That you think you'll use.
And gradually incorporate those into your conversations. Exactly. Don't be afraid to make mistakes.
Oh, mistakes are your friends.
They are. They help us learn.
The more you use them, the more natural they'll become.
And, one of the best ways to learn is to just pay attention to how native speakers use them.
Yeah, be observant.
Watch movies, listen to podcasts, eavesdrop on conversations.
Maybe not eavesdrop, but you get the idea.
You know what I mean? Just immerse yourself in the language.
Absorb it.
And speaking of nuances, I think it's time to come back to that thought-provoking question we left everyone with.
Oh, yes, the big one.
How do phrasal verbs, with all their unique combinations and constantly changing meanings, reflect the nature of the English language itself?
It's a question that really gets you thinking.
It does. What do you think?
Well, I think phrasal verbs really embody that dynamic, adaptable nature of English.
Yeah, they're always evolving.
Just like the language itself.
It's like they're these little snapshots of how English works.
Always changing, always growing.
And they encourage us to be playful with language.
To experiment.
To not be afraid to try new things.
And to embrace the beauty of imperfection.
So next time you're feeling stuck or you want to add a little bit of flair to your English, remember those phrasal verbs?
They're your secret weapon.
They can really help you unlock a new level of fluency and expression.
Have fun with them.
Exactly. And that's it for today's deep dive on phrasal verbs.
Hope you learned something new.
We did. We always do.
That's the beauty of language. There's always something more to discover.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.
See you then.
All right. We're going deep into American English pronunciation today.
Yeah.
You want to sound more natural, more fluent,
Uh-huh.
and that YouTube script you sent, packed with tips.
Okay, cool.
I think we'll find some really cool shortcuts to sounding American.
Yeah.
Ready to unlock some secrets.
Yeah. Sounds exciting.
This script is cool because it doesn't just focus on individual words. It goes into the nitty-gritty, like how sounds change when you're speaking.
Right.
How you connect words, the rhythm.
Exactly. It's not just about saying each word perfectly. It's more about how it all flows together.
Right. That makes sense.
Think about it. When we speak naturally,
Yeah.
we don't enunciate every syllable.
Right.
We kind of blur sounds together.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of what makes American English sound, well, American.
Okay, I see. So what kind of things does this script suggest?
To make that happen.
Well, first thing, it jumps into these things called reduced sounds.
Reduced sounds.
Like instead of going to, you take gonna.
Right.
Or want to becomes wanna.
So.
Basically shorthand for spoken English.
Wait, gonna, wanna.
Yeah.
That's like normal, right? I never even thought of it as a specific thing. To learn.
Right. It seems obvious, but it's actually key to sounding more natural. And this script points out these little patterns.
Okay.
Kind of for kind of, or should have for should have.
Yeah.
The unstressed parts get squeezed.
Uh-huh.
Almost like a linguistic accordion.
Uh-huh. Linguistic accordion, I like that. So it's like finding those patterns.
Yeah.
And almost being lazy with the sounds. But in a good way, of course.
Exactly. Efficient with your speech.
Right.
And it's funny you say lazy because there's this other thing. The flap T.
Okay.
It's, well, kind of lazy too.
Hold on. A flap T, what is that?
Okay, so think about a word like butter.
Butter, yeah.
Americans say it. It often sounds more like butter.
Oh, okay.
Almost a D sound instead of a hard T.
Wait, are you saying I can just swap a T for a D sometimes? Not exactly swapping. The T just softens between vowels. Happens a lot in words like water, later, metal.
Huh. I'm starting to feel like I'm discovering all these secret codes to American pronunciation.
You're getting it. And there's more. The script talks about connecting words.
Okay.
Helps create that smooth flow.
Right.
You know how you just asked, what is that? Most Americans would actually say, what in the world is that?
You're right. It all blends together.
Yeah.
So want to becomes wanna and.
Yeah.
Are there other examples?
Tons. Think about got to.
Got to, yeah.
Spoken naturally, it often becomes gotta.
Oh, okay.
Or going to becomes gonna, like we said earlier.
Uh-huh.
It's all about linking those sounds.
This is crazy. It's a whole new way of looking at how we speak.
Oh.
So we've got reduced sounds, the flap T, linking.
Yeah.
Anything else?
The script really pushes how important vowels are.
Okay.
Specifically, mastering the American vowel sounds.
Okay, vowels, yeah. They're important. But why so crucial for sounding American?
Vowels are the foundation of any language.
True.
But they can be tricky in English because there's so many variations.
Right.
The script even highlights one specific sound.
Oh, which one?
The schwa.
The what?
The schwa. That relaxed vowel sound we use all the time. Kind of hard to describe, like the A in about.
Right.
Or the E in taken.
Ah, I see that sound. It's everywhere.
Exactly. And mastering the schwa, along with other key American vowel sounds, it's huge for sounding authentic. Like fine-tuning an instrument so you hit all the right notes.
Makes sense. If you have the wrong vowels, it throws the whole rhythm off.
Exactly.
Speaking of rhythm, the script talks about stress and intonation too.
You got it. We're getting into the musicality of American English now.
Yeah.
Just as important as the individual sounds.
Yeah, it's like each element adds a layer of complexity. But when they work together, that's when the magic happens.
Okay, I'm digging this musical analogy. So how does the script handle that rhythm and melody of American English? Well, it starts with this idea of sentence stress.
Sentence stress.
Basically, we emphasize certain words in a sentence more than others.
Oh, like, I think I already do that. Like, I went to the store. I'd probably emphasize went and store.
Right. Exactly. It's like shining a spotlight on the most important words, the ones that carry the main meaning.
Makes sense.
Those are usually nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, content words.
Okay.
The little words like prepositions and articles, they kind of fade away.
So it's not just about pronouncing each word perfectly.
Nope.
It's about knowing which words to hit harder, like conducting an orchestra.
Exactly. And the script gives some really cool examples.
Does it?
Takes phrases right from that video you sent.
Yeah.
And shows you how the meaning changes depending on where you put the stress.
Whoa, can you give me an example? I gotta hear this.
Sure. Let's take, I bought a new car.
Okay. Classic.
Now, if you say it with equal stress, sounds flat, almost robotic, but listen to what happens when we shift things around. I bought a new car.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, totally different. It's like the first way, you're just stating a fact, but the second way, like you're, I don't know, excited.
Exactly. That's the power of sentence stress. Adds so much nuance, emotion.
So cool. I'm starting to see how this all fits together.
Yeah.
The reduced sounds, the linking, and now this sentence stress. It's like building a symphony of American English.
I like that.
What else is in the script?
Well, we've got the rhythm down. Now let's talk melody.
Ooh, okay.
That's where intonation comes in.
Intonation.
Yeah.
That's like your tone of voice, right?
Yeah. Whether it goes up or down, the musical rise and fall as you speak.
Right.
And it can completely change what you're saying.
Oh, for sure.
Remember how you were talking about, are you coming?
Yeah.
How it can be a question or a command, just depends on how you say it.
Oh, yeah, totally. Like if your voice goes up at the end, it's like, are you coming? You're asking. But if it goes down, it's more like, are you coming? Almost an order.
Exactly. The script has some really good tips on intonation, how to use it naturally. Like we often go up at the end of a list or when asking a yes-no question.
It's like a whole secret code to American English.
Kinda, yeah.
Oh, and speaking of codes, the script talks about phrasal verbs too. I remember struggling with those.
Yeah, phrasal verbs. They can be tricky.
They really can. It's like you got to figure out how the verb and the preposition work together.
It's like a little puzzle to create a new meaning.
Yeah, exactly. Like take out.
Take out, yeah.
It doesn't literally mean take something outside.
Right.
It could be going on a date or getting food.
Yeah, there you go.
Huh.
And the script highlights some of the most common ones. Shows you how to use them in conversation.
That's helpful because they're like everywhere in spoken English.
For sure. And mastering those definitely makes you sound more fluent, authentic.
Another level unlocked. So we've gone from reduced sounds to linking, then sentence stress, intonation, now phrasal verbs. It's like we're building a whole pronunciation toolkit.
I love it.
What's next on this adventure?
Well, the script gets really smart here. It wants you to actually put all this into practice.
Oh, okay. A challenge. I'm ready.
It gives you some common American phrases.
Go.
Asks you to try saying them out loud. Pay attention to everything we've talked about. Reduced sounds, linking, the stress, intonation. Even try to slip in some phrasal verbs.
Love that. Taking everything we've learned and like putting it to the test. Pronunciation workout time.
You got it. Moving from theory to practice.
Yeah. Makes sense.
It even suggests recording yourself so you can hear how you sound.
That's a good idea. I always find it helpful to hear myself. Sometimes I'm like, whoa, is that what I sound like?
We've all been there. But the more you practice, the more natural it'll feel.
Okay, this is encouraging. Like I'm finally cracking the code.
Yeah.
But I am curious. Any other tips for like continuing to improve beyond this deep dive?
Absolutely. And this one's really cool.
I'm all ears. What's the secret weapon?
It wants you to be a pronunciation detective.
Ooh, I like that.
Pay attention to how Americans talk.
Okay.
Like in movies, TV shows, even in real conversations.
Yeah.
Listen for those reduced sounds, the linking, the stress, the intonation.
Right.
It's like a treasure hunt for pronunciation gold.
I love that. And I bet the more I listen, the more those patterns will just click.
Exactly. Train your ear.
To the music of American English.
And the script goes even further.
Oh. Tell me more.
It challenges you to try mimicking what you hear. Pick a scene from a movie.
Okay.
Or a show and try to copy the actors. Pronunciation, intonation, their rhythm.
Okay, that's a challenge.
Yeah.
Like taking those pronunciation gems and actually trying to recreate them.
It doesn't have to be perfect. The point is to play with the sounds.
Yeah.
Experiment. Have fun with it.
Right.
The more you do it, the easier it gets.
I like that. It's like turning language learning into a game. Oh, and I remember the script had that challenge to make sentences with phrasal verbs.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
That's such a good way to really get them,
Right.
see how they work.
Totally. Putting all those pieces together. I guess the big takeaway is pronunciation is a journey, not a destination.
You got it. Stay curious, pay attention, keep practicing.
And you know what? I bet the more I learn, the more I'll really appreciate how how cool and rich English is.
Absolutely. You're discovering a whole new dimension of the language.
I love it. Well, I think this brings us to the end of our deep dive. Wow, what an adventure.
It's been fun.
I feel like I have a whole new toolkit for tackling American pronunciation. To recap, we got to embrace those reduced sounds. Link words together like it's nobody's business. Don't be afraid of the flap T, and let that intonation fly.
Yes.
That's it. Most importantly, have fun with it.
Exactly. And remember, you're not alone. There's tons of resources out there. Online courses, language partners, even pronunciation apps. It's so true. And of course, you can always reach out to us if you have questions or just want to share what you've learned.
Absolutely.
We're here to cheer you on.
So go out there, embrace those American sounds, and keep that detective hat on.
Thanks for joining us today. Until next time, keep those ears tuned and keep practicing.